Guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about the question, is a career in medical billing and coding worth it? If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay, so maybe you are in the process of doing your research about medical billing and coding or the health information field, and you're wondering, because you're hearing really good things and then you're hearing some not so good things, like how it is difficult to find a job as a brand new medical coder. Is this really worth it? The answer is yes. With medical coding welcomes all types and walks of life, okay, from people, right? And when you are coming into the field, whether you are coming in with no experience in medical at all, like I did, okay, I came in with zero experience in medical, or maybe you're a nurse and you're transitioning into medical coding, or maybe you are an older person and you're transitioning to another career. Perhaps it's something completely different. I have heard from people who were in the trucking industry who are transitioning over to medical coding because, you know, doing physical jobs is harder as you get older. And so a desk job and a job where you have to think sounds a little bit more acceptable. And it is true. You know, for some people, they just get tired of doing like manual labor jobs. And when I started as a medical coder, I had come from the the food service industry. I had come from working manual labor jobs. That's what I had done before. So yes, it is nice change when you go from working really physically hard to now you have to use your brain. This career field in medical coding, and I'm a medical coder, I do not do billing, but there are people who do both. And there are some people that just do billing, and there are some people that just do medical coding. So it really all depends on where you're applying and what you're applying for and what you really want to do. Because some people really, when they find out about medical billing and coding and they get put into those different positions, some find that they like the billing aspect better than the actual coding part. And some people enjoy the coding part and really don't care for the billing part. So it really all depends. And that's the great thing about this career field, is that it is so independent and that you are really the master of your own destiny. It is whatever you choose to do. Now, I will also say this: when you are beginning in the field and you are trying to study and get into the industry and study for your certification exam, you have to keep in mind that we have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. Now, the vast majority of us are either high school graduates or we have our GED. So that is going to require us to do a little bit of catch up. And by a little bit, I mean a lot. We have to be able to catch up on a lot. That's what I always think of. I've been in the industry since 2008 and, you know, trying to get into this industry and trying to catch up all of these years. And I just barely had the aha moment where I really discovered the passion for medical coding about 6 years ago. And that's when I really put my foot on the gas with starting to learn about the different parts of the body and the different aspects of, you know, the disease process and things like that, so that I could easily be able to understand the documentation. Because once I did that, understanding the documentation was cake. And so but it takes effort and it takes time. So this field involves learning. It involves reading comprehension. It involves a lot of studying. It's not just when you're in school and when you complete your program and then you pass your certification. It is literally continuing, because we have to be able to have continuing education units that we complete in order to maintain our credentials so that we don't lose it, right? And because of this, it's going to require us to continue to study. We have to be updated as things get updated, as the industry updates, as the codes get updated. We have to stay on top of all of those changes so that we are at the cutting edge. So that being said, it's a long-term effort. This is not this is a marathon. It is not a sprint. That's what this industry is. There's a lot of growth that can happen in this industry as well, if you let yourself grow. There's people who will complain and say that it is very boring. Medical coding is so boring and they do the same thing over and over again. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, then you need to change it up, right? You have to be willing to say, I want to do different clinics. I want to be able to expand. And if wherever you're working is not fulfilling that part where you're able to learn different clinics, there's plenty of other jobs out there that you can apply for. So always keep that in mind. You can always look other places. Once you have experience, then you really can go anywhere. And if you feel like you're starting to outgrow a place and you're working and you're doing the same clinic and it's just not challenging you enough, talk to your superiors, talk to your supervisor, tell him or her, you know, what's going on and that you really want to be challenged, that you want to do different things like work in the ER or work in the cardio clinic or work in the orthopedic clinic. There's always challenges out there. You just have to make it known because sometimes supervisors, if you're hired for a certain position, okay, that's what they think that you want to be in. You have to be very vocal and you have to talk about that. It's all about really good communication skills. And even if you are a shy person getting into this field, you're still able to express those things because there's plenty of shy medical coders, trust me. I have been there and I'm still a very shy medical coder. Even though, yes, I talk on here and I'm very bubbly and, you know, when I talk to my providers, it's effortless, right? But when I am brand new meeting somebody, I do get very shy and it does happen. And that's just one thing that you're always going to have. If you're a shy person, you're always going to have that. But it's once you allow yourself into the process of, and for me, it is a process of medical coding, I get very excited. And that's when everything just ignites. And I'm like, okay, this is where I have all this confidence because I really enjoy this. And having confidence comes with time. It comes with experience. And there's nurses out there who decide, well, you know, I'm really tired of being a bedside nurse and I really kind of want to transition into the coding. And for some nurses, the transition is very easy because either they have a really good trainer or they've understood the process of coding, and because coding is different. And even if you're a nurse and you've been selecting codes, it does not guarantee that you're going to understand medical coding right away. I have trained nurses and I have seen nurses struggle with medical coding to even understand the concepts. A little bit of ego can get in the way though if you aren't willing to say, I don't understand this. Can you explain this a different way? Because it's something when you're explaining medical coding to another medical professional, sometimes they get into that profession that they're in. They get into that mindset rather than taking a step back and getting into a medical coding mindset. Because nurses have a different way of looking at documentation. And I know because I've done many trainings with nurses and they'll tell me, okay, this is here, this is here, this is here. And I'm like, okay, that's not what I see. This is, as a medical coder, this is what I see. And I'll explain this. They go, but clinically it's right here. I go, okay, there's a big difference between something being clinically there and all the indicators versus what the provider is actually documenting in what the final diagnosis is. So there's a huge difference, and you have to be humble enough to say, okay, I'm willing to learn this, and I'm willing to say, okay, I have to take my nurse hat off and I have to be able to put on my coder hat. So there's that. And a lot of nurses have been writing me lately asking about CDI. Well, I'm a nurse and I want to do CDI. Clinical documentation improvement or clinical documentation integrity is a really great thing. It is a very specified, specific thing. And this is basically, to put it in layman's terms, it is looking for holes in the documentation. Where can the documentation be more clear? And a nurse having clinical training is going to be able to see that. However, because they have changed the requirements for it, now people who don't have who are not nurses, are able to do this as well. And it comes with time. It comes with a lot of training, like a keen eye when you're looking at medical documentation, right? And so because of this, a lot of nurses are like, well, I want to do that. But I suggest, if you're a nurse and you're watching this, and please hear what I say, okay? when I say that nurses should have time as a medical coder before they jump into being a CDI, it is very important to understand fully the coding process and what it all entails and what we as coders go through and what we're looking at before you jump into the CDI part. Because when I've seen nurses who do not have experience in coding and they jump right into CDI, it's like when we're trying to explain this to doctors and they're just sort of giving that feedback like, I don't understand, this is stupid, I don't get this. It's already there. It is like talking, the same kind of conversation. So in order for a nurse who is turned CDI to be able to understand, okay, this is what we mean when we're saying this, they need to spend time with the coding first. And it may be an unpopular opinion, but it is my humble opinion as a medical coding professional that I have seen. And again, I've trained many a nurse to know. And so in the industry, providers will treat medical coders and they will treat nurse medical coders essentially the same because all they hear is medical coder. And when they do see a nurse, it's just like, okay, then they go into that sort of nurse mode. Okay, they're a nurse and that's a medical coder and they're coming after me with this red pen. It's not about the red pen, guys. And red pen meaning they're doing something wrong, you know. It's about building those good relationships. And when you're coming from the field of medical already, sometimes you're a nurse tech or a nurse, not nurse tech, but a nurse or a surgical tech. I've seen surgical techs do that as well, come over and become medical coders. Again, you have to get out of that mindset that you're coming from and get into the medical coding mindset because it is a completely different way of looking at documentation. And you have to be willing to say, okay, I'm going to listen to somebody that is also not a nurse, but is a medical coder and they really know. So it's about putting egos aside. There's a lot of egos in the industry too. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Sometimes when people have degrees, it's hard for them to get training from a medical coder who's just certified because they say, well, you don't have a degree. Yes, but I've been in the industry long enough to know that this is the way that this goes. And with degree holders, aside from the RHIT, because they do a little bit more of the medical coding side, right? But the degree holders like the RHIA, they're mostly trained in the managerial side of the house. So when you're trained on the managerial side of the house, coding is not your concentration because that's not what the RHIA, Registered Health Information Administrator, that's not what that degree is designed for. So that is why even with the RHIAs, they do sometimes, some employers will require them to have a certification in addition to the RHIA. So it really all depends on where you're going. And I know it may seem like a lot of information right now when I'm explaining this, but there's so many videos on my channel, guys, where I'm talking about specifics. And I do have advice for nurses, videos all over. I may have to create a playlist for those so that way it's just easier. But you can just type in nurse under my videos and it'll pop up. But with nurses, you know, it's a really good thing that they want to do CDI, but at the same time, it's my suggestion to start off in the coding part so that way you can really learn. And that's what I say for people who want to be auditors at the same time too. There's people who are in school and they immediately want to be auditors, and I've heard from them. You know, I'm in this school program right now and I really want to be a medical coding auditor. Okay, well, do you have experience in coding? No, not yet, but you got to get experience first. People have to know that you've been through those ropes before to understand what it's like. Even with auditors, you know, you have to understand what it's like to be audited, and you have to understand the experience of having to explain yourself and things like that. I've done a video before too about how you can progress in the field of medical coding. It's not just being a medical coder in a clinic or in a hospital. There's many different functions that we do. Like I said, there's CDI, or there's being an auditor. There's also being a supervisor or a lead and things like that. So there's different tasks that you have to do when you have those positions. But it is a really good field to develop in. Medical coding, if you allow yourself to develop, not just as a professional, but on a personal level, as far as like brushing up on your communication skills, because you're going to come into times as a medical coder where you're having to argue, and argue meaning you have to defend your work. And when you have to defend your work, you have to do it in a way that is not, well, where you start raising voices and screaming and you just don't like me. And it's not that, okay? You have to be able to put your own personal feelings aside, and you have to think that this is not just a person that is trying to get me because they don't like me. It is because maybe I did something wrong. But if you know you didn't do something wrong, then you need to explain why. And being able to develop those skills as a leader and as a good communicator is going to help you in that. I say all the time that people who are not in leadership positions can still study leadership. And I recommend that for all medical coders, whether you're coming in from a medical background or not, is that you do take the time to develop your communication skills, because you're going to need them, and especially in this industry, in order to be able to grow. Because if you can't stand up for yourself, if you can't defend your work, and if you can't be able to train other alpha personalities, which is these providers, if you can't train them, it's going to shortchange your career a lot. Because some people will look at medical coding as it's a job. It's a job, Blue. And, I get paid really well, and I collect my check and I go home. You're missing a lot of the experience. To have a career in this life, because you only get one rodeo, right? To have a career in this life, you need to be happy with it, because there's so much time that is spent in your profession and for your profession. Because it's not just 40 hours a week at a place, right? We still have to do the continuing education units. That's still additional time on top of your work week. And at the end of your career, all of that time adds up. You don't want to spend hours and hours and hours a week doing something that you lukewarmly like. Either get involved with it, or really start to take stock of what you're doing. Because, like I said, you only get one rodeo. And how you choose to spend your rodeo, and how you choose to spend your career life, it's going to be your whole life. And that is something to think about. Some people, go from one career and they enjoy that career for 20 years, and then they transition on to something else in life, because that's the way that their career life is. And that's okay, but enjoy your time and enjoy what you're doing. Discover the passion, but put yourself in the position to be able to do that. Don't just think of it as, oh, this is a chore. I have to do reading, and I don't want to do that. There's fun ways of engaging yourself, and there's fun ways of engaging learning. I've spent many hours developing myself. Now, like I said, 6 years ago, I had my aha moment. A little over 6 years ago now. I had my aha moment. And my aha moment was when I discovered that I really, truly have passion for what I do. And once I discovered that, once I felt like I can't wait to get to work, and I can't wait to start coding. And I know that sounds nerdy. That's what I am, like whatever. But when I felt like that, I was just like, wow, and I couldn't wait. And when I would go to conference, and I would learn all these things, and I just couldn't wait to get back to my facility so I can tell my doctors, and I can tell my coworkers, and just to share this information. That's when I was like, this isn't even work anymore. This isn't work for me. And I don't feel like I'm ever going to retire. I mean, I really don't, because I always feel like I'm going to have my hand in medical coding in some way. Because I feel like it's always engaging my brain. It's always engaging my senses, as far as like my craving for knowledge. And that's what you have to have, but you discover it on your own. People discover it in different ways. There's people that truly love what they do, and sometimes they can't put their finger on that moment, but they just do, and they enjoy it, and they enjoy what they do. And so it's a really nice feeling to have, and to be able to say, that I do something that I love every day, and I and I wake up and I don't feel like I'm going to work. I feel like I'm just going to a place where I can enjoy being for 8 hours with doing something I love and being around a lot of people that I enjoy. You know, I'm not going to lie to you. Of course, there's people that, oh, this is a colleague. But then there's other people that it's like, this is a person that I enjoy because I enjoy our conversations and I enjoy the camaraderie because we are in this together. We are in a career field or they're related to me in a career field in some way. They're a provider or they're an ancillary staff and they have to work with me. And it just makes it all the much more exciting because it's different. When I have to train providers and then when I have to train nurses, it's two different mindsets that I get into, but it's the same message. And the way that it's presented is presented in different ways because of just the company that I'm in. And so because of this, I've been able to find out how my nurses best learn and how do my doctors best learn. And my doctors are always my priority and they know this. And I make it a point that they know that they are my priority. And when you have that, it builds trust. My providers do trust me because they know at the end of the day, Blue is going to go after it and she's going to make sure that I have everything that I need. And I will be able to anticipate those needs because I'm going to be a step ahead. Because I make myself be a step ahead. I have to be paying attention to all the new updates that come out and things like that. So that's the effort that I put in to it. And it's not going to be something that you're going to be able to know right away. It's going to be what you discover after a while, but you have to be paying attention and you have to be letting yourself have those experiences. At least that's just my advice. But I will tell you guys that it is not for everyone. There's a lot of people out there that will try to sell this field to you. I have always said I never am trying to sell this field. What I'm telling you is the good and the bad. And I will let you make your own decision. And however you choose to spend your journey in this life is up to you. And do whatever makes you happy. But when you spend the time and you start learning this, and you take the time and you're patient with yourself, because patience with yourself is really key, especially when you're learning and especially when you're getting out in the real world and even when you're working in your first job. It takes a lot of patience with yourself because you're going to get to those times when you're just like, do I know anything? Do I know this? Do I understand? And yes, you do, but you just have to be with it and you have to have practice because it's not going to come to you right away. It's going to come to you with time. At least this is what my advice is. So yes, it is worth it, but you have to be willing to put yourself in it. And that's just my advice. So I will go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you hit that subscribe button, like this, share this if it helped you, and I will see y'all on the next video. Bye.